So, good morning, good evening, and a very good afternoon to each and every one of you. It says to me that there's like three people who are waiting for us to go live, and we are streaming not only on one platform, not two platforms, but three platforms. So you're kind of spot for choice. But anyway, we're gonna hit this one hard. Gavs, my brother, all the way out in Australia. Gavs, it's been a while because I've been busy for the last 2 weeks. Just entertaining friends, working hard, and then what happened again? We've got friends, entertaining them, then working hard, and then this is the third week. But Gabs, how you been anyway, man?
Yeah, no, good as well. It's 3 weeks now. I think it's about 3 weeks, isn't it? But I think the last or
That's
maybe
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Time passes really quickly. But as I said, that's life. It just shows you how precious time is.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty good. Treasuring it. Yeah.
Wicked, nice one. So we're usually like three musketeers, and we're just waiting for the third one. Probably got lost somewhere, but he's got the link. Ricardo, he knows where we are. If he wants to come on, he can come on. If not, Gabe and myself, we've done podcasts together for so many years, so it's like water off our ducks back. You know what I mean? So it's all good. It's all good. Right. So a bit of housekeeping, Gabs. We spoke about naming the giving the podcast a new name, and these were the names that we came up with. Oh, actually, it was Gabriel. Gabriel, you came up with all these names.
I thought you came. Yeah, you came up with a couple of those. Yeah,
no,
okay.
Only the last one. Only the last one.
Oh, Fortunes of the Mind. Yeah, okay. Think it, build it. Yeah. Think it, build it.
Yeah. So what I think we're going to do, we're going to run this one for the next few weeks. I've put out a poll. Come and vote for your favorite name to rename the podcast. So they see the options. You've got Think It, Build It. That was Gable's idea. Success Frequency. That was Gable's idea. Mind Over Money. That was also Gable's idea. And Fortunes of the Mind was the only idea that I could think about. So, come on the platform, vote for your favorite name for the podcast going forward. And in actual fact, there's going to be some changes once we've renamed the podcast. We won't be streaming on a particular platform. We're going to be streaming only on two platforms. You can have your say. Have your say on which one you want to go for. So I've told all my family and friends, go for the one that I chose. No, I'm only joking. Anyway, guys. So you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, this podcast is going to be about advice. And I had to have a long think about this one, guys, because thinking about the advice that my mum gave me and my dad probably gave me more advice than my mum. And out of the two of them, I'll probably say my mum was a lot more strict, and my dad was probably very, very laid back. So whenever my dad was giving me advice, Gabs, it was always about the girlfriends that I would bring home. And he would say to me, why are you with that girl? What happened to this girl? She called the house. I was thinking, back in those days, we had a house phone. And stupidly enough, I gave actually two girls.
And your parents will pick it up. Yes. Yes. Your parents will pick up and go, who's this? Mobiles. Yes. You go, oh my gosh, you pick up the phone. Okay. Who's it? They pick up the phone and be looking at you like, that dirty look. Who's this? Oh my gosh!
But the good thing it was always my dad who, although he was resistant to answering the phone in the house, it was always him who happened to be in the living room and answered the phone when one of my girlfriends called the house. But on a very serious note, I did kind of name this podcast like Advice is Like Snow. And it's just something I kind of picked up on. And the reason behind it was, advice is like snow. It it's softer when it falls, and it dwells longer on your mind. Who has ever had unsolicited advice, which means, you know what, somebody's giving you advice and you haven't even asked for that advice? That's something that I really don't like, but I've learned to, you know, be more receptive to advice, whether it's good advice or bad advice. But this is about the girlfriends, man. Oh my goodness, guys, man. We're not even going to get into about how we managed to unlock the dial.
Exactly. Then it got to the point where your parents started to lock the phone. Yeah. And then you had to be creative.
Oh dear. Anyway, let's get on, because my wife just said, I'm here, I'm listening to the conversation. I forgot. Yeah, anyway, so the first bit of advice, strong advice that I remember my mum giving me was, just because you have £1 in your pocket doesn't mean you have to spend all the £1. Try and save it, spend a little bit, but try and save the majority of it. And Gabs, I've got to say, I was probably good at making money. I was working, again, getting up early in the morning, paper rounds, going cleaning with my mum and dad and my brother, and my brother and my two sisters. So there was always money flowing, but I was terrible, Gabs, at literally keeping, you know, at least a £1 in my pocket. And my mum came down hard on me, because she was saying, you know what, you and your brother, especially you, Alex, it's like, you're getting up early, prepare yourself for going to paper rounds. And by the end of the week, you spend your money on comics, on sweets, at least save the £1 in your pocket. And yeah, that piece of advice, Gabs, felt really, really hard on my ears. Yeah.
Because when you put that in the bigger scheme of things, that is what even what we spoke about a few weeks back, when people were asking about advice in terms of financially, it was saying, they're talking about what percentage do you would you keep for investment and blah blah blah. So that's that, what I mean? That's the same kind of thing we're talking about. So that simple thing, when you're actually a young age, and then you learn to do that, and that's you learning about the profound ways of saving money and using the money to its best, to its power, right? And then you grow up, and then you learn, and it stays with you in bigger things in life. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah. So I've got to say a big shout out again to Gabe for creating the images here on the slides. I could never do what Gabe was done. It's really, really good work, Gabs. So Gabriel has said, being in control of your money is powerful. Spend wisely and not impulsively, because we are, in the majority of our nation of we love spending money, man. We love to spend the money and not thinking about saving the penny or the £1 or £10 for a rainy day. We love being a consumer,
So basically what you're just saying there, right, is the same. So it's so ironic that you mentioned this one, right? Because I've been having the same conversation with my youngest son. Literally, he went out. He just said, "Look, Dad, I want to, he's working, he has a part-time job." And I said, and then he wants to spend his money on a car. He's already got a car, and he wanted to sell the car and get himself a better car. And I said, "What's wrong with the car that you got at the moment?" "Nothing. I just want a bigger car, bigger engine." I'm looking at him, going, "Okay, I do remember when I was like that, but to the point where." But I said to him, "But do you have to spend all your money or most of your money on that car, where you could just think about it, maybe take your time a bit, get enough money, and then save, still have a chunk of your money left, and then use the other money to buy a car, rather than spending all your money or most of your money on the car and you've got nothing left." I said, "You haven't even got a buffer. It's just crazy." Yeah. So you know what I'm saying? So, and I said to him, I said, "Beware of shiny objects." That's what I said to him.
Oh my goodness. Wicked one, Gab. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Chasing shiny objects.
Yeah.
I say, you're young. Okay, I get it. But you can't continue like that for the rest of your life, because that's just going to, as I always say, it keeps people poor.
Yeah. And just to tail it off, Gabs is again, it's just footnotes saying a takeaway from this. Financial discipline is a choice, not a restriction. And we're not giving you financial advice. This is just again experiences that we have both gone through, and you can choose to follow it or you can choose not to follow it. But just remember that there will be a consequence, good consequence and a bad consequence. And usually, most of the time, you learn the hard way. I learned the hard way. And even to my adult life, Gabs, with investments and doing silly things, Gabs, with my money, I think, Alex, you need to learn the lesson. Learn the lesson. Do your due diligence.
We just talk. It's all based on experiences we have, and we learn, and we're now looking in retrospect, right? And thinking about, oh my gosh, if I'd, now I understand why they were telling, that advice was given. And now you see what what I mean, because it makes absolute sense.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, again, in our household, Mum was the one who controlled, the purse strings. When Dad came home, I remember he used to come home with his the brown envelope with all his money in there, and like Mum used to make sure literally the bills were paid for, the food, the shopping, whether we needed clothes. So Mum was the one who controlled everything. And actually, in our household, my household with my wife is like that. I let my wife control the majority of things, not everything. But was that the same with you, Gabs, in your household, between your mum and dad?
No. Yes, my mum was the one who, because my dad was working, and she was the one who had to make sure that she did the shopping. She had to do the shopping. She had to, buy, go do shopping for the clothes, for our clothes or whatever we needed, and so all that needs to be in her hands. And even though I look at it and think to myself, she wasn't that great at it, but my dad just put that trust in her to actually make sure she managed the money the best way.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, listen. Going to the second slide, and shout out to my dad, man. I can't really talk about ex-girlfriends and calling the house. I thought, Alex, just keep it on a even keel. So one of the greatest advices that my dad gave, because I can never remember, Gabs, my dad being sick. He never had a cold. He never had the flu. He never, from my memory, he was never sick. He was never sick.
Yeah.
He always said, because I was doing silly things. So look, you need to look after your health because nobody else is going to do it. Don't expect anybody else to do it for you. You need to make sure you're doing it yourself. Because as we know, Gabs, health literally is your wealth. If you don't have great health, how can you think about having, wealth?
I
remember, playing all the sports, cricket, tennis, and football, and my dad was always there. And I think probably I got hurt when I was playing cricket, and that's when he said to me, you need to make sure you look after yourself, because nobody else is going to do it. Don't expect anybody else to do it for you. That is your responsibility, Alex. All right. As you get older, I was thinking, and I've got to say, even at that point, the penny didn't drop, Gabs, for me. It's just when I got a little bit older, and I again was just playing cricket, and I got a serious injury. I thought, you know what? Yeah, I can't keep running to mum and dad, thinking, they're always going to be my safety net. I've got to make sure that I'm doing the right thing to look after my health. Actually, Gabs, do you want to give everyone the news about, you're going to be,
I mean, look, people always, I mean, health has always been a big thing for me. That's what I've been about. I mean, from the age, I think I got it when I was very young anyway, because at the age of, I think about 8 years old, I was always just competing with, sport, and I always found a way to compete. So look, I'll tell you, this is an example of what I used to do. I used to, have piggyback fights. I don't know if anyone remember piggyback fights. I used to piggyback fights, and I used to, have piggyback fights or piggyback race. Someone on my back and running at the age of 8. So I was doing those kind of things like crazy. So I was very competitive anyway. And then obviously, I think by the time I got to, and I was competing in athletics and track and field. Obviously played sport, like we played football. But the main thing is, from then on, as I said, at the age of 14, I remember somebody showed me a gym, and then that was it for me. I was like, wow, this is me, because I just said, I'm like, wow, I love this. And the thing is, no one will ever understand that, because I remember all my friends at school, all the people in the school that I knew looked at me, and half the time they're going, what are you doing? Where are you going into that? What are you going in there for? Because the actual gym was a shed in the school.
Yeah.
You remember it was in the shed in the school, like this old crappy shed with all weights and that. And someone was looking at it and going, what are you going in there for? And I'm going, I don't care. I don't look at it. See what I mean? The picture is, I don't look at it like it's supposed to be some beautiful gyms like the way we see them now. I looked at it and I thought, that is the seed for me to, you know what I mean? For me to become something, look after my, my physique and grow it and become very fit, and that's how I looked at it. So, and then it was from there on, I just continued, and I've gone into so many types of gyms and been on there, and so even though, as I said previously, my career was in IT, I still was doing my fitness. It was always there. When Alex will tell you, even when I was a teenager, you would say we're going out to go to a club or whatever. Where's Gabe? Oh, he's at the gym.
He's at the gym.
He's coming. He's going. So I go to the gym before I go out. That's So I mean, so it's been my thing. So what I've decided, obviously decided to do now, I'm at that point where I decided to kind of semi-retire from IT and going into personal fitness. So that's what I'm doing now. And everyone who says it to me, I tell you what, everybody says it's about time.
It's about time, Gabs. It's about time.
That's it. It's about time. And as I said, I always believe it's never too old to do anything. I never believe that. I always believe that, challenge yourself, whatever your age you are. Keep the mind going, keep your body going. That's what I believe. That's the health. And what you just said there, Alex, about what your father said. My dad used to say, so just to put it, he used to say to me. He said to me, your health is more important. Make sure you look after it, because without your health, you can't do it. You don't have much at all. You can't do this, you can't do that. Then, and he understood that, because I used to look at my dad. My dad was a diabetic anyway, so
my dad yeah.
But I know he tried to, when he was young, he tried to do exercises at home and keep himself kind of fit and everything like that. So I think that was he inspired me anyway, because he taught me a lot of things in terms of discipline. In itself, when I did something wrong, right? It wasn't a case of him smacking me or doing like that. He'll go, all right, I'll tell you what you're gonna do. You're gonna balance on one leg and put your finger down and stay there. And when I think about it, you think someone looks at that and go, God, that's cruel. But when I thought about it now, I think how it built my core.
Yeah.
The core of my body balance.
Yeah.
It was brilliant for it. Do you know what I mean? I just look at it and I go, my gosh, wow. And I can just do it still to this age. Yeah. So it's brilliant. Yeah. So
what, Gabs, it's like, again, just as you're talking there, to remembering, my dad was, again, very laid back and very funny. And the other thing I could take from him was, me personally, don't take yourself too serious. But, have a humorous side to you. And, working with children, I mean, they keep me young. I'm always running around with the kids in the playgrounds, apart from all my other colleagues. And just the other day, one of the children was saying to me, because I'm also making a step now into semi-retirement. And I said, but sir, how old are you? I said, well, I'm almost, we're heading towards 59. He said, no, are you on steroids? I said, no, I'm not. I'm not on steroids.
Yeah, steroids for useful kind of useful rejuvenation.
my wife always says that movement is life. You got to, keep moving. So many people I realize now they're probably in their 60s, mid 60s, late 70s. The movement is not great, and I intend to keep moving. Having that positive outlook on life. But yeah, my dad he would inspire me because he was such a funny person. Apart from being very, very laid back, you know what I mean, Gabs?
That's it. Exactly. So yeah, and they understood. So it's one of those things that they taught us. So we didn't even know that they were telling us it or anything like that. But he said it, and then all of a sudden you start doing things in your in your life, and then you people realize to go, well, God, from a young age, Gabe, you were doing this and that. And I thought, well, maybe that's probably inspiration from my dad. What he kept telling me about the whole thing. So yeah. So it's been great, and goodness me, gives you so much. I think you feel so much better mentally, physically, and you feel good about yourself. That's how I look at it. And for me, with the stress, sometimes I used to go through the stress of work and things like that. Hey, goodness me, exercise, man, that used to take it all away. And so it's good for mental health too. So that's what I'm saying.
So a couple of footnotes on there from Gable. So self-care is your responsibility. It's your responsibility, nobody else's. Neglecting health now means paying for it later in life. Takeaways. So prioritize sleep, nutrition, eating well, and movement. Your future self will thank you for it. So when you're, again, our age, because we're not teenagers anymore, even though in the morning I might get with maybe the stiff movement. You later in life you think, thank God I was eating better. Thank God I did this. Thank God I was taking a 10-minute walk. Thank God I was reading a book. Something that maintained my positive mental energy. So what you fail to do now, you're going to pay for it later.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
I've seen it so many times over. Yeah.
All right, Gabs, over to you, I believe, for the next one.
The other ones.
Yeah.
Oh, is this one? Is that one? That was this one you, or was this?
I think it might have been Ricardo's.
I might say that one for Ricardo, but I'm sure this one makes any sense because it's pretty much what you've said, even though it's in a different term here. Penny saved is a penny earned. It's basically the same thing as saving your money. So anyway, although I don't know if Ricardo's coming, but maybe he's got some more to say about that. But basically, saving money is as valuable as earning it. Yeah, small savings add up over time. So imagine you saving up that. People look at that and go, what if I saved a penny, a day? Imagine how much for such a long time and how much it would be. It'd be amazing. Imagine if you saved that penny a day, or let's say a pound a day or something like that, and you were getting interest on it every time. I mean, that's compounding. Again, compounding is the same, as they say, is another wonder. Is another wonder of the world. So yeah, things like that. But anyway, see that's
Gab. Shall I go into the live chat because there's been a couple of comments there.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You go in the live chat. Yeah.
So this one, I think they're referring to the story I said about the girls calling the house.
Yeah. It's gonna be. They're gonna be laughing.
I was reading the phone.
They can imagine because now we've got the phone. Now I look at my son. Now we have to look at our youngest. Like they could be 13. I mean, my son got his phone when he's 13, and then you kind of be looking over to see who's sending them a message. And you're looking at that going, who's sending you that message? Whereas back in the day, you had the phone would ring.
Yeah.
What are you rushing to the phone for? I'm going to pick it up first. Then I'll give you the phone.
Gabs, there's a question for you. Isn't health the most important thing, Gabriel?
Oh,
I think we said that, didn't we?
We said it.
Yeah.
health is the most health is the most important thing for you individual. I mean, in the sense that you have a lot of it within your own control. Right? We said time was an important thing as well. We said time was important, but we don't have control of time. What we do with time is what we have control of, right? What we do with it, you know. So, but I have to say, with health, it's the most important, because that makes, with your health, if you look after it as much as everyone's down with, you know, no one's perfect. No one's born perfect. I don't believe anyone's born perfect or anything like that. But you can do a lot with your health to make it, and especially at a younger age, in order for you to sustain it for a longer age. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So yes.
And here's one here from someone I recognise, my brother Ralph. He says, "Hi, Alex and Gabriel. A great channel on financial independence and learning how to make the money work for you, either at work or when you're entrepreneurial." So yes, nice one, Ralph. That's coming there. All right, Gabs. Are we going onto the slide for you now?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah. It's done. All right, so this is what my dad used to. My dad was just full of it, and I used to remember he used to say these things, like, you know, cut your coat according to your size. And I used to look at him and go, "What do you mean by that?" You know, and he never used to explain it to me. He just said, "Cut your coat according to your size." But I kind of got it, because he used to say, you know what I mean, live within your means. You know what I mean? Because I used to do certain things. In terms of spending your money, right? For instance, when you're spending on something bigger. So I used the example of my son, that sort of thing. You know, okay, he's got no money, but back then I used to do it to the point where I had no money. Spend it, you know what I mean? Spend money on, you know, my first car, I spent money on it because wanted it so much, and I had nothing there. And then he said, you know, cut your coat according to your size. Don't live beyond your means. And then I thought about it, and it made sense to me, because I tell you what, having that car, even though it was nice, the rest of my quality of life was taking a battering. Because I was going, oh my gosh, I can't afford to go with my friends as much as I want to. Can't do this, you know what I mean? If I want to, I can't, I've got to, work, first go to work, and then wait till I save up some money before I can do whatever, you know what I mean? So it just makes it a lot far less easy, because it's always nice to have money there in a buffer. You don't have to keep worrying about it. Worry about the next paycheck, next paycheck. Do you know what I mean? It's just wherever you've got the buffer there to take care of things, and then you can live it, the way to, have a quality of life. That's the way I see it. But yeah, when my dad said that, and I went, yeah, okay, Dad, yeah.
Gabs, you're right, but what? There's a slight variation of that saying, cut your cut according to your size. My grandmother, God rest her soul in peace, she would say the slight variation is, put your hat where you can reach it. And that advice was aimed at my brother, not solely at me. But like, as you say, Gabs, so whether my mum or dad or my grandmother, they would say those things, but they wouldn't never elaborate. And you're there thinking, what are they talking about? What do you mean by that? But many times my grandmother would say, put your hat where you can reach it, meaning live within your means. Don't stretch beyond your means. If you're earning £100 a week, don't spend over £100 a week. Live within your financial means. So you don't have to, go to the bank, ask for loans, go around, ask your friends or family for money. Live within your means. But you're right, Gab. My grandmother would never elaborate on those things that she was saying. So what are you talking about, Gran?
It's like they're telling you, they're giving you the seeds of something, and just say to you go out and find out what for yourself.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Now what I'm talking about, that's enough. That's how it was. So it made sense. And I tell you what, my dad, what I believe what my dad was saying, he's saying that he saw me do some things on impulses.
Yeah.
right? You're buying on impulse. You used to do things like that. So they said, no, you got to think about what you're spending your money for, because at the end of the day, impulsive buying, and I get it. I mean, I used to buy it, as I said, and then I remember I bought a nice car one time. After a while, the novelty wears off.
Yes, absolutely,
All of a
Gab.
sudden, you're sitting, you've driven the car for a while, and then you go, I don't feel that. I don't get that same feeling I did when I got the car. I first got the car for within the first week and everything. I was so excited and everything. Now I'm not feeling it.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So it
yeah,
shows you that these things don't really give you the, that satisfaction in life that you strive for, that you want. It's almost like that, people turn around with, they try and get that fixed with drugs and things
yeah,
like that. You know what I mean? It's only temporary.
yeah, man. Yeah.
There you
And your
go.
footnote, Gabs, you said that, live within your means, don't stretch beyond what you can afford. And the takeaway from this: budget according to your income, not your impulses. I don't know how we managed to be, at least in the UK, we're a nation of consumers, Gabs.
Same here in Australia. Yeah, same. Yeah, absolutely. Western world.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it is the fact that we're never. I mean, I don't want to go in hard on schools because I've worked in schools for how many years. And my mum would say, charity begins at home. But I had my mum and dad giving us all these advices, and even extending that, my grandmother. And I still yet, I fell into the consumer trap. Oh, there's that shiny thing. I've got to have that. I've got to have that car. Oh, that watch. I've got to have that watch. All those trousers, that suit. I've got to have it. Yeah, I
Yeah,
still
but
play those traps, Gabs.
yeah, but that's the reason why, is because with our peers, right? We know what our parents were like. Our parents were pretty strict, but our peers at school used to see them with the nice shoes, the nice trousers. You know what I mean? Have the latest this, latest that. I remember the Burberrys they used to be walking around with.
Oh,
And do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? The nice shoes, and I used to look at the shoes and go, boy, I want shoes like that,
yeah,
And you know what I mean? And you look at, but that's what you do, and you strive, you see that, and you go, but having said that, their parents were just giving them everything. Sometimes these parents were just giving them, the kids to say, yeah, okay, you can have that. You know what I mean? Because some of the parents, the parents have just allowed them to have that, because they had the money, or what the parents just said, oh, I'm gonna give you, I'll give you what you want. And then you look at that, and I don't think that was. Which advice would you have? I think I now look back on it, and I think the way my parents were teaching me about that, hence what we're talking about, is I think that was better advice than not having the because I think what it is with some of those parents, especially what I noticed, is that those parents didn't have the time to really sit down and give their sons advice. They didn't want to chat to them about them or have that conversation. You know what I mean? Because they said, okay, I don't want to get into the argument and everything. Like, okay, I'll just give you what give you what you want. Okay,
yeah,
fine.
yeah,
Catch you
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, well said, Gabs. Yeah, and the funny thing is, again, just reflecting on the piece of advice from my mum. Practice what you preach. As much as a lot of people like to give the advice, I'm probably not practicing the advice. My mum practiced what she taught us. Very, very strict with money. The budgeting. Again, on what my mum and dad were earning at that time. Early 70s, Gabs, and what they managed to build up, the legacy. I'm thinking, oh wow, thank you, mum and dad. Thank you so much for the advice. Although we didn't want to hear, we learned, or me, myself, and I learned the hard way, Gabs. And you're right, some parents don't want to have the conversation. They don't want to ground their children in a particular culture. You know what I mean? Where they can be, good adults when they grow up in later on in life.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So, but and got to understand, the way we thought about it back then, we thought our parents were being horrible.
yeah, yes,
Right?
absolutely, Gabs.
Remember, because you think, why can he have that and I can't have that?
Mm,
Do you know what I mean? You used to think
yeah,
that way, right? You used to have, but you look back on it and I go, I understand why they thought that way and why they were trying to ground us to be a certain way. I understand it. Now we see it. Absolutely. All right. Yes. Yes. All I can say is I think a lot of people understand. And I tell you what, I mean, my dad used to say it, and I used to look at him. He used to, my dad used to sing it. I used to hear him in the shower
You're joking.
singing that.
Really?
Early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and what. I used to hear him singing it, and I used to laugh. He just used to laugh. Oh gosh, I'll tell you what. But you think about it, and then think about the wealthy people in this world. I tell you this: ask them, do they lie in their bed? In their bed, lie in the bed. They up early in the morning working out what they're going to do for the rest of the day. Because you know why? At the end of the day, is they're living life to the full. That's why they're doing it. See, early in the morning, clarity. I mean, it makes sense. Before some of them before the sun, the sun rises, just to have that, get their minds done before everybody's up. Focus on what they need to do for the day, and then get it all done. I tell you, that starts to make sense to me now. Well, later in life, it started to make sense to me because I've seen people, and I've had friends over the years who, especially when we in the 20s and climbing and all that, and you see them going to bed, obviously really late because they're climbing, and then waking up like 11, sometimes 12, and then you think to yourself, and I could never. I mean, I couldn't do it because to me it was like, oh my god, my day, I couldn't do it. Half my day's gone. No,
it's gone
way.
already. Yeah,
it's gone. You know what I mean? It's gone. What are these people doing? And then I realized, and what those people who grow into that kind of habit, unfortunately, fell on the wayside. Most of them did, unless they had some revelation to say, listen, I need to change those habits big time so that I can do it like this. You know what I mean? Actually, wake up early and be focused on what I need to do in order for me to focus. And again, focus on your goals and what you need to in life and what you want to do and where you want to get to in life, right? In a positive manner. That is, and I see that more often, the more successful people I see, that is key to what they are. Seriously.
So again, just going back to us and my family and the family unit, it was part of the culture that you had to get up early because the jobs that I was doing, both my brother and myself, we had to be up early, and we're talking about 4 o'clock in the morning, Gabs. Being up early, it doesn't matter. You got school.
You learn young.
You learn young, man. You learn young, and again, what better teachers you could have than mum and dad? I know in the modern, nuclear family, there's probably only one parent, but in our household, it was mum and dad both getting up early. We had to be up early, and there was no excuses. And that's in the week, Monday to Friday, much less for Sunday, getting up early for church, Gabs. So there was no getting away from it. But what it taught us, a culture, like I said, Gabs, getting up early, getting things done early, be up for the crack of dawn. What's the saying? The early bird catches the worm. Get up early. There's no excuses.
Yeah. And that is a great form of discipline in itself.
Yeah, Gabs. Absolutely, man.
Absolutely. Really, just great form of discipline. Because let me tell you something. Yes, it is hard to go through it. It is hard to get when you're not used to it. Getting up early, it is hard. But once you start doing it all and it becomes a habit, it becomes a lot easier. And then there's no looking back. So you go through it. But the thing is, at the end of the day, you go through the pain early, as we all say, in order for you to pay, and it pays you forward, right?
Yeah. So, Gabs, to take away from this, good habits start with a routine. When I'm working with children, especially children with educational needs, I try and get them into a routine very, very quickly, so they know, what's expected, what is going to be the end result if they stick to the routine. Early risers often find more clarity, definitely energy, and they are more focused. If you imagine you're waking up at maybe midday, and you're going to have a late day because half the day's already gone, isn't it, Gabs?
How do you feel that? How does people feel that? I'm sure most people don't. I've done it when I've woke up. Back in the day when I used to hate it. I used to hate waking up midday because I feel absolutely lethargic for the most of the day.
Yeah. Unless
So
you're taking
I got rid of that. Got rid of it.
Yeah, so start your day strong, own your morning, and definitely own and take control of your life. Get up early.
Stitching time saves 9. I used to say that too. Yes, stitching time saves 9.
Gabs, actually, before you go into this one, there's been another comment in the live chat. And this person is saying, I'm not going to answer this question. He says, Gabriel, what was the worst piece of advice your parents gave you? I'm not gonna respond to that. You don't have to if you don't want to, Gabs.
I have to think about that one,
I'm not going to respond to that.
Oh, I tell you, I won't say it was. Yeah, I know you're gonna win, but I think it was what my mum said to me one time, and I actually turned around and said to her, "Mum, that is the biggest load of crap that you ever." She threw something at me when I said it. I can't remember what it was. I'm trying to remember what it was. My mum. I would never say it to my dad. My mum said, because my dad just said, the way my dad said things, he said it with such calmness and poise.
Yeah.
That even though it didn't make sense to me, I'm thinking there must be something in this. And you're trying something. Do you know what I mean? My mum used to do things off the cuff, just off the cuff and like that, because she was angry with me or something like that. And then she said something. And then I remember one time I just was a retaliation of, and it was what she mentioned. It was something, and I looked at it and I thought, well, that is absolute crap what you was talking about. Do you know what I mean? I was like, and she just threw something at me, just as that's to say, how dare you say that to me? You know what I mean? But anyway, yeah.
I'm not going to respond to that question, man.
Yeah. I think with our parents, we didn't. Even though you look at the advice, there are many things that I can think that they said that didn't make sense to me, and you think it's bad advice, but I can't pinpoint some of them. Maybe I'll have one for you for that question. Maybe next I'll run through it in my memory.
All right, guys. Next one. A stitching time saves 9.
Yeah. So with this one, it's just and this makes. As I said at the time, I looked at this and I thought, stitching time. That's a nice rhyme. I like this. You know what I mean? You look at it, you go, oh, it's a nice rhyme. Okay, I could use that. Maybe I could use that in a rap, right? But and then I think there was something. But you look at it and you go, yeah, but it actually makes time. It makes sense because you got to. What it actually meant is, you got to fix the problems. You got to nip things in the bud, right? Fix your problems early before they grow bigger. And I've seen that going through experience in life, absolutely 100%. I always use the words, got to nip it in the bud right now. Because if I don't deal with it now, the problem will surmount and get bigger and bigger. And then, to the point where it's too big to handle. I don't want it. So, no, anything. So, I look at this one, someone's trying to fix I've done big projects like building houses, right? And that's me just managing the houses. Now, when you're managing builders, contractors, whatever is going on, and then you see something that needs, something that's happening, like you've seen a leak, your roof is leaking, right? So what they do is they put the tiles on and everything like that. Sometimes they crack the tiles as they're going on, putting the tiles on, and all of a sudden I'm in the house and I see that obviously this is before the house has been completely finished, but you see leaking. Now the thing is, if you don't deal with that leak, right, all of a sudden everything's coming into the house and then it's just damaging everything else, right? All the woodwork, all the wood frames and everything like that, to the point where now it's damaged, and then you've got rot and everything like that, and then you've got to, then they've got to literally change a whole section of it because it's all rotten and it's wet and it's thing. So that's what I'm saying. I called them straight away. I said, listen, there's a leak. You need to you need to nip that in the bud, and that's what so that's an example of how you've got to make sure you get someone there in the right time, at the right place, and to deal with a problem. So that's one. So I always been it. As you say, take away from that is the timely action avoids major setbacks down the line. And when you're talking about big projects or big, things you're dealing with, and you deal with the problem, which is smaller right there, versus leaving it for days, and then get to the point where it's so big a problem. Number one, it's so hard to tackle, and secondly, it's so expensive to tackle at the same time.
Absolutely, Gabs. Absolutely. I've got nothing more to add. I think Gabriel said this. He said it all himself there. The stitching time, saves 9. And I think another few words that my grandmother, not so much my dad or my mom would say, but this is something definitely that my grandmother would be saying on a regular basis. Gabriel, Ralph, you're brave, man. I think the worst piece of advice given, although it was at the time well-meaning, holds too many people in a chosen mindset. Get good grades, get a job, stay with the company until you retire. Not practical.
Oh, Dave, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
Very good one.
That's a good one. And I tell you, because so even my and funny you said that, Ralph, because the thing is, now you remind me of what my dad said, and I did look at, and I thought to myself, by then I was in my 20s, right, and I knew what I wanted to do. And then he said to me, and I think I mentioned this before. He goes, do not, why are you chasing? Because I had my IT job, and then I was doing all in I was trying to set up a business in, selling products and stuff like that. And I'd go out and I'd go out and do some presentations and things like that. And my dad saw me doing this, going out presentations. After I finished work, I'd go off in the evenings and do presentations and doing things. My dad used to say, why are you doing that? Why? You're in a good job. Why do you, well, I said, I looked, I know what I wanted to do. I wanted to, get myself out of the 9 to 5. That's the whole reason what I was looking at. My dad didn't understand that, because he thought the 9 to 5 good job was, my son, you're the golden son. You're getting a good job, and then, I didn't want. But I looked at it, and he said, you're not going to be a millionaire. So why are you going out? And I looked at it and I thought, yeah. I remember thinking, I'm not going to be a millionaire in this job. You're absolutely right, and that's all you can see, Dad. But what I'm aiming for is to be, you know what I mean? In a millionaire, we're doing other things. That's it. You didn't see that. You didn't see that. Yeah, he didn't see
diversify, man. That's a good one, Ralph. Actually, get good grades, get a job, stay with the company until you retire. Like Les Brown says, it's the day of the entrepreneur, isn't it? There's no one particular job. People now, of course, with their working career, have multiple jobs, and especially with the advent of AI, that's another facet on top of being a content creator. You know what I mean? But yeah, nowadays people have different jobs, don't they, Gabs? They don't stay in one job until they retire. You know what I mean? I remember my dad retired. Right. Yeah. Get a job.
The days of job, even though that I remember that, I think it was there was I saw a YouTube video, something I don't know if it was the world of an entrepreneur, the way of an entrepreneur, or something like that. I think it was right. You know what I'm talking about. I think it's a really good. I mean, it was really, because Les Brown was on it. What was it? It was something. What was his name? Rao. What was his name? You know what guy I'm talking about, don't you?
I'll have to look that one up, man. Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name, but I know.
They were saying exactly. He was saying, what eventually, because nowadays, you look back years ago, the day of you have a good job, staying in a good job, and working through through years and advancing through the ranks in a job, and and then at the end of the day, you have a good payout when you retire. I think those days are, gone.
Yeah,
A lot of people are not jumping from jobs, jobs to because reason why is because redundancy is more often now. You know,
mm-hmm.
redundancy is more often, whereas back then they're willing to keep investing in you and keep you in the job, and then till you retire. But now
Yeah,
there's within it's getting even quicker, but it's getting 10 years after that, they say, sorry, we've got to make you redundant. Now it's getting to it's getting to 5 years now, because now they don't want to really pay you out. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
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 that's kind of gone. So yeah, that's why people jumping from jobs to this. And now people start going to jump from job to jobs in order also to get more money, because the pay as well. No
yeah.
one's when you're in a job for a long time, they don't pay you like they would when you move from another job. Like when you move from that, you can negotiate and
Mm-hmm.
say, I want to be on, and you could be on 10, 15 grand more when you've moved to another job.
Mm,
And you
mm,
try to ask that when you're in your current job, they look at you and say, no, well, we can only give you CPI, if not, well, now they're trying to look at your performance and say, if your performance wasn't that, so we can't give you a pay rise because your performance was just okay, but not above and beyond. So it
yeah,
doesn't warrant an increase. Do you know what I mean? That's the
yeah,
things they do nowadays. They play that kind of game, and it's getting tougher and tougher to do. So
yeah,
they're trying to put more rules in there. Yeah,
yeah.
that's
A
it.
couple of things, Gabs. So I've always been one against working a 9 to 5, even though I've done it for how many years. But when I had a steady 9 to 5 job when I was working for, as a civil servant, now I can look back, because now I'm starting the process of phased retirement. I'm looking at that pot of cash that was put aside. I was thinking, wow. So even though I hated doing a 9 to 5, the job at that time served a purpose. So now I'm looking back up 20, 30 years now. I'm thinking, right, so that pension I can use now. That's one thing. The other thing is, this is why I like working through an agency, Gabs, because especially in the job that I do, being like a school mentor,
Mm.
male teachers, they're two to a penny, Gabs. They're not many these days.
No, absolutely. I know. Yeah.
Male mentors, I mean, in maybe 30 odd schools I've worked in, I've never seen a male mentor. I've seen female mentors. I've got nothing against them, but the skill set that I have, they are wanting people with my level of experience. And so when I go from school to school, I can always negotiate what I think I'm worth. And 9 times out of 10, they will pay me the money I'm asking for.
Yes.
There is a limit now. There is a glass ceiling, because now with the cutbacks, especially in education, and having to pay an agency for the person to come there and do a job, there is now an upper limit, and you can't go beyond that. But you're right, Gabs. Now I've negotiated how much I believe I'm worth, and I've been worth a lot of money. People who have been working 20, 30 years in a particular school, they're never going to get the amount of money that I'm being paid, Gabs, because they don't have that level of experience.
Yeah, there you
But
go.
yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. But that's you have to owe it to the grounding that you've done over the years, because it isn't just about just teaching as being a teacher and going through the curriculum and everything like that. You've had
Mm-hmm.
experience in other stuff that we've spoken about, and that's hence why we do this channel.
Yeah.
All those experiences which add to your repertoire, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah. Gav, there's another one from Ralph, actually. Let me kind of bring this one up. He says, a job pays you what you think you're worth. Nothing wrong if you're not bold to chase your dreams. If you're strong enough and bet on yourself, then move the world, help people, live for many. Yeah, but you know what? Some people, I think, even now are still trying to get, because I've got a colleague of mine who I was working with a few years ago. She's almost 60, and she's been crying out to get a secure job, a guaranteed job. I'm thinking, job security, does it still exist these days? But anyway, she's got the job. Is it well paid? It's not well paid, but she's no longer working through an agency. So the school has given her a permanent job, so a little bit of security. But you've got to be bold. You've got to be, as Les Brown says, you've got to be hungry. You chase your dreams. No matter what people tell you. I always tell children, you know, if you're saying to me you want to be a footballer, don't let anybody tell you can't be a footballer. Go and chase your dreams, no matter what it takes.
Yeah,
you know, don't limit yourself. The only limit that you put yourself is yourself and nobody else. But anyway, Gabs, anything else you want to say before we wrap up this one, man?
No, that's I think we've kind of that's as I say. Based on what Ralph was just saying, a bit strong and bet on yourself. I think that the job pays you. I think the thing about that, and he's absolutely right. That again, they have a ceiling, and here's another thing as well, right? What you'll find in industries over time is that whatever an industry is, I remember when I started IT, it was in the way it was still relatively new. Back at when I think about in the late 80s, it was relatively new. You could command a certain salary. You know what I mean? The things you can command because you know what I mean, based on your skill. If you had a great skill set, they would pay you some serious money. Now all of a sudden everyone starts coming into it, and that's what happens. It's the same with AI. Everyone knew about AI back in the day. If you were an AI specialist back then, you could command a lot of. Now everyone. Same thing. The thing I'll talk about now is in terms of is when it gets to saturation point.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A job gets an industry gets to a saturation point, i.e., in terms of the jobs, everyone wants to get into it because all of a sudden it's the in thing. The buzzwords are being thrown around. Everyone wants to get in it, and then all of a sudden everyone's in it, and then all of a sudden it's saturated, and then it comes to a case where only the very few who are really out there in terms of what they know probably find it, but a lot of the people and the rest of them will be just playing, and it gets less and less in terms because there's so much more competition.
Yeah,
that's what happens, and that's just the jobs. That's just the job industry in itself, and that's what I find. I've seen so many years over. Absolutely. So as we would say here, difference is when it comes to you as an entrepreneur, right? You can then get to the point where you can start setting yourself. You can create that ceiling for yourself, right? And you can and bring it higher and higher and higher and higher. There's, what I mean? It's one of those things that, you are the one who can sort of set your worth and say what you're worth and what what you're about, and command that sort of I say income. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about this question. I'm not going to respond to this one, man. What was the worst piece of advice your parents gave you? I'm going to think about that one, man. I've got
I'll get that answer for you. I'll get that answer for you. But what Ralph said was good. But I think we all know that our parents wanted us to get yourself a good job, let's say good grades, good job, blah blah blah. And listen, they meant well. When you look back then, it made sense. But as we know, the future it changes and everything. If you think about if they said to you something different, that said, learn about you. I want you. I know what the teachers tell you, and they tell you to, obviously get good grades and help you get good grades and everything. But I want to teach you about, first of all, money. Secondly, about business. Secondly, about investments. If those things was taught at a very young age, it'd be a completely different story.
Absolutely, Gabs. Absolutely. Yeah. We've come to an end, but before I wrap up this one, as we were just talking about what's the worst piece of advice your parents gave you, my wife was trying to tell me something. Do you want to say something?
My mom embarrassed me when I was younger and I was not sitting properly.
Yeah.
Remember, you are lengthy, sitting close your.
Oh, right. Okay.
And embarrass me in front of people.
Oh, okay.
Me and my sister.
I'm not going to share that one, Gabs. I'm not going to share that one.
Not good to share.
No, I'm going to share that one. I'm going to think about it for next week. Yes. Do you know what? We have come to an end on this podcast. The first one in 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 weeks, and it's been a good one, even though Ricardo wasn't here. Advice, man. Oh my days. Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry. We've missed 2 weeks. We've missed 2 weeks. This is the third. Yeah, we've missed 2 weeks, haven't we?
This is the
third
third week.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are going to be back. What came to mind, Gabs? We could probably. I mean, no doubt we'll be talking about renaming the podcast, and I probably can think about what piece of advice that my parents ever gave me, or a friend gave me. But also, I don't know. Do you want to probably talk about a little bit more about the cash flow quadrant? Is it worth revisiting, or should we talk about a different topic for next week, Gabs? Because as you were just talking about the entrepreneur.
I think we talked about the cash flow quadrant where we broke it down, right?
Right.
Into
Okay.
the types,
okay.
right?
Okay.
Cash flow. In terms of cash flow quadrant, we can. There's many aspects to it as well. There's other aspects. Other aspects to it as well, which I could come up with. I can bring those aspects to it from what is mentioned in the book.
Okay.
Which is really some real key nuggets. In other words. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Wicked. Wicked. Well, that's it, man. Remember to, put your hat where you can reach it. Your health is down to you. It's not to anybody else. It's down to you. Yeah. Look after your health, because your health is literally your wealth. Anyway, Gabs, listen, wicked, Gabs. It's been just over an hour. I actually just said to my wife, she said, "How long are you going to be on the podcast for?" I said, "Maybe 45 minets." It's over an hour. That hour has gone so very, very quick.
Time flies. Was it time flies when you had fun?
Yeah, Gabs. Yeah. So remember, people, we're going to be posting. What I'm going to be posting again, the suggestions for the name to rename the podcast, and these are the suggestions. I put the vote out already. Think it, build it, success frequency, mind over money, or fortunes of the mind. If you're thinking, I want to vote, you can vote on there, or you can send us a comment on this podcast on the channel now. Gabs, as always, it's been a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure sharing the time on there, man.
Yeah. Vice versa.
Yeah. So until then, we should see you next week. And enjoy your weekend wherever you are. Be kind to each other, and always put your hat where you can reach it. Yeah. All right. Take care, guys. And I'll speak to you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care.